What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elliot and this is MovieFiles. And first and foremost, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. As you all can see from the title of the video, this is a attempt to explaining how I interpreted the ending of the Joker 2, so full spoilers on this video. But before we get into the video, again, thank you for clicking on it. Consider hitting the like button. More importantly, sharing your thoughts on what you thought about the ending and also the film in general. But also consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel. So before we get into the video, I just want to let you all know this is a clip out. This is a clip out of a much further discussion. I did about a 45 minute breakdown of my entire thoughts on the film. So this is my clipping out of the back half of that video of just my thoughts on the movie. So just to let you all know, that's what this next portion of the video will be. But again, this is a spoiler video dedicated to the ending of the Joker 2, and I want to know how you all interpret it. But again, what you're about to watch is how I looked at the end of the Joker 2, so enjoy the video. And again, thank you for clicking on it. Let's talk about it. At this point, he's fully on the Joker. They assault him, so now he's broken. He's getting back to Arthur because this is how Arthur felt. It's like he could be big and bombastic, but you know he's getting bullied and he's being brought back to reality. So now he's broken, and he tells everyone in the courtroom, Harley's there, the world's watching, and he says he's not the Joker. He's never been the Joker. The Joker's never existed, and that breaks the facade, right? And it kind of breaks, again, the film breaking into the meta nature of, you know, going out to the real world, like stop fantasizing about the Joker, stop, you know, looking at him as a hero and all that stuff. That's what the film does. It kind of blows the balloon up, right? Metaphorically speaking. So now he's broken. And I don't want to leave this part out. I'm going to bring it up now because it ties to the third act. But throughout the film, there's two prison inmates that Arthur, one he interacts with more than the other, but the one gentleman is like a friend figure. Again, there's just so many elements of this film that could have been great. The prison stuff could have really been like one Blue Over Cuckoo's Nest type of a situation going on. But the one kid is kind of looking up to Arthur, and he, you know, they kiss at one point, nothing sexual, but it was just like, that's when Arthur was broken, again, used for entertainment purposes. He ends up dying the night that Arthur's assaulted. But then there's another character who we'll talk about at the end, who's just in the background. He's like admiring Arthur. He's watching Arthur, and we'll get to him in a second. But as we get into the third act, wrapping up the film, Harley Quinn, Lee, is broken. He's having his final moments, his final statement to say why, you know, he should be, you know, not given the death penalty or what have you. But he looks at the jury, they tell him the verdict, he's guilty, and he's laughing because we know that that's an instinctual type of reaction. When he's nervous, he laughs. But the parents and the people who were victims, you know, they take that as an insult. So we see one of the fathers, he said, "Oh, you son of a," you know, he attacks Arthur. Commotion going on in the courtroom, and out of nowhere, boom, we have a bomb go off, and it's coming from the outside. We find out from the radio that it was a bomb planted into a car. Let's address this now. Harley did that, right? Because I think of the piano. She set that off to get a reaction on the Joker, and then she set the bomb off to get a reaction on the Joker and blew up his world. So, and I got to point, again, I hated Harvey Dent. I hated everything they did with Harvey Dent. It was terrible. We see the camera panning, the destruction in the courtroom, and we go over to Harvey Dent. We see Harvey, and we see Harvey there, and it's not like completely gone, his face, but you can see the damage on his face, alluding to who he becomes in the comics, you know, Two-Face. Again, I hated everything they did with Harvey and in the portrayal of Harvey, but Arthur, and I did like, again, everything I said about this film as far as production was immaculate. You know, the sound design of when he's like rattled, he probably just had a concussion. He's coming out of the courtroom. He's still kind of in and out of consciousness, but then he comes across a Joker. And again, it goes back to the idea of like a literal, you know, fanatic seeing the Joker, idolizing the Joker. They put him in a car. He's starting to get his senses back, and they're like, "Man, this world is about to blow up. You've done it, Arthur. You really set off the bomb, literally." And he jumps out of the car. They're chasing him. He eventually makes his way to the staircase, the famous staircase, you know, where he lived and was so famous from the first one. But now this is where things come into question. Was it real? Was it fake? Was Arthur caught in the streets when he was running away from the police? Or does what happens after the staircase, was that reality? So let's talk about the scene. He walks in the staircase. He sees Lee, whose hair is cut off. Prior to that, before the explosion in the courthouse, she had a gun up to her head, alluding to her ending her life because who she thought the Joker was. He wasn't. It was Arthur the whole time. She was upset by it. So the question at hand is, in the scene, she tells him, "You're not who I thought you were. We're ending things. I'm not a fan of who you really are, which is Arthur. You said it yourself, the Joker doesn't exist. So what's the point of life?" She starts singing, right? And the reason the question comes up of if it was real or not is because every time a character would sing, 9 times out of 10, there's one time when he sings on the phone, leaving the voicemail. And there's a couple other examples where he's singing and it's in the reality of the situation, but it's not as grandioso. Like you'll notice that when Arthur's having a singing moment, it's grounded in reality to a sense. It is in his head, like the time when he's looking at the TV, that didn't really happen. It was just in his head. But there were a few times where Arthur would sing, but it was a musical number. But when the Joker sang, it was big and bombastic. It had all the lights, camera, action type of moments. But in this moment, it's Harley singing to him. And we really haven't seen a Lee moment in the film, and when she's singing, it's meant to be in reality. So in my mind, I don't think Lee took her life. I think that was Lee on the staircase. I could be wrong. Again, this is where we have the conversation in the comments. But she breaks things off, goes away, and he gets arrested from there. So again, I am to believe that since it was from her perspective, and we really never got a scene when she was singing and it wasn't real. So I'm thinking that was real. Let me know how you feel. But that's not the big thing of the third act. I mean, it is kind of frustrating because I thought that the lead character is just like, really? That's the conclusion of your arc? Like, you're not who you say you are, so now I'm ending things? It was, again, Lady Gaga, no fault of hers. I just thought it's somewhere out there. Like, there's a better portrayal of the character from her within this film, but it's somewhere on the cutting room floor. But anyway, the last moments of this movie. Arthur's caught, which, by the way, it was just like, why is he now back in prison after being, on trial and found guilty and was going to get the death trial, but now he's just sitting here after why is he just now willy-nilly just sitting around here? Anyway, he's watching TV. His favorite guard, prison guard, tells him, "Oh, Arthur, you got the visitor," and he's thinking that it's Lee. So he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm about to go see Lee," and then I don't know the character's name because they don't give him a name. But it's, as I mentioned earlier, there was 2 inmates that that they made obvious was going to play a part in this film. The one inmate who was nicer to Arthur and looked up to him died. And there was another inmate who follows Arthur, who's walking to the room to go see his visitor, which is death, essentially, and meet his end. But the guy follows him. He says, "Hey, Arthur, let me tell you a joke." And pretty much the joke is like, a guy goes into a bar and comes across a clown that he admired or something, and then the whole punchline was like he wasn't who he says he was or whatever the case may be. I can't think of the actual, I'm butchering the line, apologies. But essentially the idea of the comment of the joke was, you were a letdown, and he stabs Arthur.
Okay, I'm waiting for the punchline.
There's no punchline.
Now, as he stabs Arthur, boom, 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 stabs him. Arthur goes back into his head, into the fantasy, and the Joker, it's like the Joker's killing Arthur, right? The Joker ultimately won, is how I took it. We pan out. He's now on the ground dying, but in the foreground, it's kind of blurry. Let's just call it the Joker. Let's just say the Joker, the real Joker, has a knife, and he's, you want to know how I got these scars on my face? He's literally cutting, his mouth open to put a permanent smile on as the Joker dies, and the film plays a Lady Gaga cover. And that's how we end the film. So, but apparently there was a Q&A with Todd Phillips. Again, take this with a grain of salt. Again, unless I see this on video or like Variety reports this, then take this with a grain of salt. But I saw somewhere online that there was a Q&A held by Todd Phillips after the film. And apparently that guy was the Joker, the real Joker in the world that he created. And that apparently it was said that Arthur was inspired by that real Joker, that he took those bodies. He claimed like Arthur didn't kill anyone. The real literal person who was in prison, the Joker, killed them. He took on the persona. He took credit for those kills. And that guy got his payback and no, I'm the real Joker, and kills Arthur. take that with a grain. I hate that if that is true. I don't think it's true, but I just want to mention it. I do think in the reality of the situation, Arthur in the Todd Phillips world, Joker, is a mantle, persona, a mantra of a sense that that particular guy took on. Like, you're not the Joker who I thought you were. I'm now going to take on the Joker and show the world what the real Joker could be and should be. And again, it's a whole metaphor of, again, the movie. That's just how Todd Phillips viewed the actual movie, and like, oh, you guys want your Joker? Here's your Joker. I hated it. I freaking hated it. And then apparently, again, take this with a grain of salt, but apparently it was said again that this is maybe potentially the origins of the GOAT, Heath Ledger. But again, I'm not going to even entertain that. But I just thought I would bring that up because, again, I saw that online. I thought it was an interesting conversation. So, yeah, that's it in the film, y'all. Again, I thought the movie had so much potential to be about a film of showing a character facing the consequences head on of what they did from the first film, and to really explore this character and to really dive into this relationship with Harley Quinn and really go into the deception, the lies, and this kind of this shared delusion of the title that was never coming to fruition. And it just was a letdown, man, because I really do think that the first film is a great, well-made homage to, Taxi Drivers and King of Comedy, and putting his own spin to that world, and really dealing with a character with mental health issues, but then slapping the IP. I've always felt like, and this, before we wrap this up, I always feel like without the Joker IP, this film probably would not be anywhere. It would not have been as successful, like not nearly as successful, if it didn't have the Joker title on the movie. So it needed the Joker to be made. And unfortunately, with the Joker being stamped on there, it's not a Joker movie. It's an Arthur Fleck, type of, and I don't want to make this to a whole conversation. But anyway, wrapping this up, man. I'm not a fan of the film, even though I think it's well made. I think there's good performances, but I think it's a lot of wasted potential. And I really feel like Todd Phillips, the whole idea of like combating the audience of like, oh, you think this is what the Joker is? Well, no, this is what happens when you idolize these type of characters. This is what happens when, he's redefining what certain things meant in the first one and what was real and what was not. It was just like, dude, you're literally making the first one. You're just ruining the first one. But anyway, yeah, a good, beautiful looking piece of art, but without a lot of substance or meaning or value, and just wasted potential. All right, so that's my thoughts on the Joker 2. What do you all think about the ending? What worked, what didn't work? And again, that was a section of a much larger discussion. So check out that video, which can be found in the description of this very video. Again, I really appreciate you all taking the time to watch it. Again, if you enjoyed yourself, share your thoughts in the comments on the ending, and also consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel. You all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.